once again. I'm here talking with Manoj Menon from Emirates. I think many of you may know him or may know of him. Manoj has been with Emirates for 20 plus years, 14 of which he's been doing ULD. And unlike me, he hasn't got white hair as a result of that. And he looks after about 43,000, the beard, okay. He looks after about 43,000 ULDs. So that's a fairly demanding job. So in today's interview, I wanted to spend some time with Manoj talking about some of the different reports and functions of the IULDUG system. Manoj is, I think, very familiar with the system. So I wanted to start off, the system produces a number of lists. And I wanted to start off by talking everybody through, or asking Manon to talk everybody through the meaning of the different lists. The first is list 1, which is foreign unit transactions. So Manoj, can I turn the floor over to you, please? Foreign unit transactions.
Yeah. Morning, everybody. The foreign ULD transaction, or what is referred to as list 1, is the number of units or foreign units that have entered into your system and you have not returned them back to the owner. So it tells you the list of pending units in your inventory, which belongs to another airline.
Okay.
And it will also give you the days that it has been with you under your control.
So that's a pretty straightforward report, right? So yep. Now if we move on to list 2, list 2 gives us foreign units which left your system, but we do not know when they were transferred. This would indicate that there was no muck out.
Yeah, there was no muck out by the transferring carrier. So let's take, for example, Emirates receives a unit from, say, British Airways, and Emirates updates the return transfer to British Airways, but British Airways has not put in the out transfer from their system into EK system, into the transfer of their unit from BA to EK operations. This list will give you all those units that, yes, you have returned this unit, but we have no clue when they entered your operations, so there is no demurrage calculation possible. This is more of an information to the owner carrier that there is a pending mark out from your side.
But at least it tells you that the unit has come back into the system, so it's kind of cleared the transaction.
Yes, it is just to close the transaction because it's having only the return transaction in the IULDUG system. The transfer transaction is not available.
Okay. So list 3 is your units for which we do not have the previous transaction. Would you like to expand on that?
Yeah, it's a list of units that list 3, Bob, is an owner airlines ULD for which there has been no previous transaction received by the ULD control center, which is the IULDUG system. And therefore the demurrage cannot be calculated. So they do not have a previous, it's actually the reverse of list 2, wherein the unit has been transferred back into your system, but you have not provided the system when the unit was transferred out of your system into another carrier. So list 2 tells you the units that you have finished the transaction, but the owner carrier has not put in the transfer into the system or the transfer route. List 3 is just the reverse of that, wherein you have not put in the transfer route, but the other airline has put in the transfer in.
Okay, that's very nicely explained. Thank you very much. That's good. So then we come to list 4, which is one that always confuses me, which is foreign units which have left your system, but we do not know when.
Okay. I'll try to explain that with an example, which will make it much more easier. Let's say, again, I'll take the British Airways example. I have a British Airways unit that has come into my system, my inventory, and I have not done the transfer out of the unit in the IULDUG system, but Now Air New Zealand does a transfer for the same unit out to another carrier. So there is a missing gap. British Airways gave it to Emirates. Now Air New Zealand has got the unit and they've transferred it to somebody else. So there is a unit, there is no information in the system when Emirates return the unit back to British Airways, for example. Or it could be Air New Zealand transferring it again to another carrier, or it could be British Airways who have received the unit and inputting an update that we have transferred this unit now to a new carrier. So there's a gap in between British Airways transfers to Emirates. Emirates has not updated it. Now British Airways is handing over to Air New Zealand, for example. So there's a gap there. So it's just informing you there's a unit that has left your system, but you have not updated the system with the return transaction.
Okay. Okay. I think that sounds clear enough.
Did I complicate it more, or was it?
No. I mean, I think what you're talking about is what does go on in real life. And it is an unfortunate fact that in the hurly-burly of air cargo operations, transfers are all too frequently not recorded. Otherwise, everything would stay on list one. These additional lists are because we have situations where, due to the pencil and paper component of the process of the information and then manual inputting into computer systems, you get gaps in the chain, which causes these things. So then my only other question that I've got.
Can I add here, Bob? This is the beauty of the system. It does not only look at straightforward transactions of transfer out and transfer in, and it also considers all these gaps in the operational processes. Like you rightly said, a lot of things that don't get, I mean, there are processes, but it's not that everything gets done the way it needs to be done in that sequence of way it should be done. So that's the beauty of this system. It gives the user the information of all these different, scenarios that could happen in ULD transfers and helps you correct them in time. So when these reports hit your screen and you say, oh yeah, I have not finished this transaction, let me immediately close this transaction because this unit has already left my system, so I can close it and have the demurrage updated real time.
Okay, yeah. No, I think from that respect it is very user friendly, and this is a bit of a diversion, but looking at what we're doing with blockchain will enable us to do this even more effectively, because blockchain is such a good process for the way of tracking all these continuing transactions. So then the last questions I have is, when we look at the various report headings, I hope you can throw some light for viewers onto the different headings. So we have relieved by self, relieved by another, and the one that always confuses me, which is of another, relieved by you. Would you like to care to try and explain what these three mean?
I'll try to explain that. I mean, this is basically the list that we discussed to a great extent. It's all linked to that. So relieved by self is you have a unit that has come into your system. You have a foreign unit that has come into your system, and you are closing the transactions by returning the unit back to the owner carrier. So that is relieved by self, that you have relieved your own interlined units back to the owner carrier. So that's very simple, relieved by self. You yourself have relieved yourself from that transaction. Now, relieved by another would be wherein you have received a unit, and this is the example of the list 4, if I may try to put it into perspective, is there has been a return done by another carrier, or there has been a transfer which has happened by another carrier, so it has left your system automatically, and now the other carrier should not be invoiced for helping you. This is a transaction that I should have done from Emirates when I'm returning a unit. There's another carrier who says, okay, this unit has been received back by me from Emirates. I hope I'm not confusing it there further. Let's take the BA example, BA to EK, and EK was supposed to give it to, say, Air New Zealand, for example, and Emirates has not updated the transfer, but Air New Zealand comes into the system and updates the transfer. So now the charge should not be going to Air New Zealand. They've just helped you relieve yourself of that unit. So your demurrage calculation is closed. So Air New Zealand has helped Emirates update the transfer. So it goes, the charge comes to Emirates, not Air New Zealand.
Okay.
that it does not discourage people from entering transaction details. And, because the thought would come, if I enter it, I get charged for it. It is not my business to enter this. It is to just encourage the other airline who sees the transaction and sees it's not updated can just finish and close the case.
Okay. So that's relieved by another. So then of another and relieved by you. That's okay. So that's the exact opposite of the one. That's the Air New Zealand case.
That's the Air New Zealand case, yes. So you won't be charged. It is just telling you the transaction you have done, but you won't be charged for this.
Okay. And just to clarify, when we're talking about the charges here, we're talking about the transaction charge, which is currently and has been for many years $1.50 per transaction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Manoj, thank you very much. You've, I think, unraveled some of the mysteries of the IULDUG system very adequately. Yes, thank you very much indeed. And I would like to say that all your inputs are extremely valuable as we move forward to creating an even better system in the months to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you so much. Anytime. Thank you. Nice talking to you, Bob.